Makena had always known. From the moment she could remember, her mother had warned her about the secret her hair carried. It wasn't just something that grew from her head, it was a force, a power wrapped in thick strands of unyielding volume. Her hair was big, impossibly big, and it grew larger with every passing year. It wasn't like anyone else's hair. It was unique, and with that uniqueness came a terrifying truth. Her mother had told her when she was young, "Makena, you must never change your hair. If you do, if you straighten it, cut it, or even tamper with it in any way, someone will die." At first, Makena thought it was a warning to make her keep her hair tidy, but as the years went on, she knew that her mother's words weren't just some old superstition. They were real. The power in her hair was dark and tied to something she couldn't fully understand, but she felt its weight every day. The children at school would stare at her, whispering behind their hands. "Look at her hair," they'd laugh. "It's huge." But to Makena, her hair wasn't something to be proud of. It was a reminder of the curse she lived under. She tried to keep it under control, but nothing could tame it. Her mother had braided it carefully, made sure it stayed contained, but even in braids, it was a force. It was as if the world itself was trying to hold it back, and yet it would always break free, defying anyone who tried to change it. Makena had learned to live with the stares, the whispers, and the teasing. But she could never forget the warning. Her hair was her burden, and every time someone mentioned it, every time she felt the eyes on her, she wondered if the day would come when someone would pay the price for her secret. That day came sooner than she thought. It started like any other day at school, but the teacher, Miss Okafor, was different. Miss Okafor was a kind, well-meaning woman, but she didn't understand. One day she looked at Makena's hair and with a smile said, "Makena, why don't we try something different today? I think it would look so much nicer if we straightened it. It's a shame to hide such beauty under all those knots." Makena froze. Her heart raced as she remembered her mother's words. "Please, Miss Okafor," she said, her voice trembling, "you don't understand. My hair. It's not like other people's hair. If you change it, someone will die." But Miss Okafor only laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Oh, Makena, don't be silly. It's just hair. There's no harm in trying something new." Makena's chest tightened, but she knew there was no stopping Miss Okafor. The teacher had already brought out the straightening tools, and before Makena could say another word, the first strand was being pulled taut. The air seemed to grow heavier as the teacher worked. Makena's heart pounded in her chest, and she wanted to scream, to stop her, but the words wouldn't come. And then, just as the last strand of hair was straightened, the bell rang. The students began to gather their things, preparing to leave for lunch. But before they could stand, a loud, horrible noise echoed through the room. One of the students, a boy named Kwame, collapsed to the floor. His eyes rolled back in his head as he convulsed, and the classroom erupted into chaos. Makena froze in horror, her heart stopping in her chest. She knew what had just happened. The curse had been set into motion. Miss Okafor screamed for help, but it was too late. Kwame was gone. Makena's hands shook as she looked at her hair in the mirror. She had warned them, but it hadn't been enough. The weight of the secret she had carried all her life had now claimed a life of its own. The death of Kwame shook the village to its core. Rumors spread like wildfire, and whispers followed Makena everywhere she went. They called it a curse, a punishment for tampering with the unexplainable power of Makena's hair. But for Makena, it was more than just a rumor. It was her deepest fear made real. As she sat in her room, her mother's words echoed in her mind. "If you change your hair, someone will die." The village was in mourning, but there was no comfort for Makena. She knew the cost of the secret she had carried for so long. It was more than just a curse. It was a responsibility, one that now weighed on her soul. Makena didn't dare to leave the house. The guilt gnawed at her, and the eyes of the village were always on her. Her mother too stayed quiet, her face full of sorrow as she watched her daughter unravel. "We must go," her mother finally said one night. "The village doesn't understand. We'll leave before it gets worse." But Makena couldn't leave. She couldn't run from the truth that her hair had claimed a life, and now it was up to her to carry the burden. Makena's world had become a prison. The villagers no longer looked at her the same way. The pity, the fear, the suspicion, it suffocated her. No one spoke to her. Children crossed the street to avoid her. One afternoon, as she sat near the river, thinking about the future, an elder approached her. "Makena," he said in a voice as ancient as the land, "the village has decided. Your hair must be contained, or there will be more deaths. The people are afraid." Makenna stood, shaking her head. "I can't change who I am. My hair is not the problem. It's the curse I was born with." The elder's eyes hardened. "Then you must leave. Leave the village, or else the curse will take more. It will take someone else." Makena felt her heart crack, but she knew the elder was right. She was the cause of the pain, the cause of the fear. Her hair, her gift, was a curse to everyone around her. She was torn between saving herself and saving the village she had always called home. That night, as the stars shone brightly above, Makena stood by the river, her hands gripping her hair tightly. She knew she couldn't run from her fate. It was as if the earth itself had chosen her to bear this burden. She closed her eyes and whispered to the wind, "I can't be what they want me to be, but I'll make things right." With trembling hands, Makena gathered the courage to face the hardest decision of her life. She walked back into the village and approached the elders with her mother by her side. "I will leave," she said, her voice steady despite the fear inside. "I will take my hair with me, and I will find a place where I can live in peace. But I will not change it. It is who I am." The elders nodded in silence, knowing she had made her choice. They could not stop her, but they understood the weight of her decision. Makena's heart beat with uncertainty as she walked away from the village, leaving behind everything she had known. Her hair, now a symbol of power and destruction, remained untouched, but she had one hope left, that someday someone would understand that it wasn't the hair that was the curse. It was the secret that lived within it. This isn't the end of Makena's story. It's just the beginning. Will she find the courage to live as herself? Her journey of self-discovery has only just begun. What's next for her is limitless. Thank you for watching. If Makena's story resonated with you, don't forget to like and share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that speak to the heart. Keep shining and always embrace who you are.